The Detroit Tigers avoid the sweep in Houston, thanks in part to a grand slam from Javy Báez. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Thursday, May 1st, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Happy Thursday, everybody. The Detroit Tigers win 7-4 over the Houston Astros and avoid the sweep in Houston, making it a pretty solid Wednesday, okay? And hopefully that translates into a solid Thursday as well. Tonight, as you are listening to this, assuming you're listening on Thursday, the Tigers will kick off a 4-game series against the Los Angeles Angels. I still say of Anaheim just because I think it sounds cooler. 19-12 is now the Tigers' record on the season after this victory. They avoid the sweep, as I've already said a few times. I think my first thought was honestly, thank goodness. Like, and not in the sense of thank goodness they even got a win necessarily. Like, thank goodness we're leaving Houston. This was like the most stressful and obnoxious series ever. And like, that's not a jab at Houston and the team. Like that's just, they are a tough team. And this was a weird game that kind of capped off a weird series. There were so many bloopers, like just, and from both sides. Riley Greene had one that almost hit him in the knuckles, and he went the opposite way for a ground ball single. Like you had that, but then you had the one inning where Houston had 2 bloop singles in a row, and then advanced runners, and just there were a ton of base runners all game, 20 hits combined between both teams, and the Astros had 7 walks on top of that. So like they just constantly, what is that? 18? No, we had 11 hits. That is 16 base runners for the Astros in a 9-inning game. And thankfully, they were only able to walk away with 4 runs. But I mean, my goodness, man, both teams had a lot of opportunities. Houston had a lot of opportunities. They were just constantly applying pressure. The Crawford boxes are ridiculous. It's just so stressful. I'm just so happy not only to get out of there with a win, but to just get out of there and not go back to Houston for a little while. Let's talk about what went right in this game. We'll start with the headliner. Javy Báez hits a grand slam in this ball game. We will obviously take that. His first home run of the season, and it's a grand slam to those Crawford boxes in left field. I think it was a home run in 4 of 30 ballparks, like 350-foot home run. But we ball, baby. You know, Houston had plenty of their fair share of Crawford box moments in this series, so we'll take it where we can. It's the value that he's brought this team is kind of undeniable a month into the season. And I am not here to tell you that this is like a guarantee that it's going to last or that he's going to be this valuable and this productive kind of the entire season, right? I have no clue what the future holds. As I said, really all week already, like the batted ball data is really not good still. But it's better than it was. It's objectively better than it was, and I don't expect there to be much power in this bat the rest of the way. But that doesn't mean you can hang Javy Báez sliders, in that situation with the bases loaded. So that on top of the fact that he is literally playing, like solid enough center field has been immensely valuable to the Tigers so far a little over a month into the campaign here. So tip of the cap to Javy. Grand slam in this. I think it's his 9th grand slam of his career, they said. Just crazy times. Crazy times. Outside of Javy, Colt Keith hit an absolute bomb in this ball game. Upper deck, pull side, upper deck on a fastball in on the hands. That is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And I mean, like I said, there's so much that comes with just seeing him hit a homer like that, like crush a baseball is beautiful. And the fact that it was on a fastball inside, right? Being able to time that pitch up and still turn and burn on it is an absolutely beautiful sight. Okay. The rest of his plate appearances were legitimately some of the most confident I have seen him, maybe the most confident I've seen him, in like relaxed. I've seen him in the batter's box this whole season, and maybe even dating back to last season. You know, each game is in a vacuum to an extent, right? Like I have no clue if that means that he's just like found it and we're here and he's going to start raking now going forward, or if it was just a 1-game thing and he was seeing whoever Houston was throwing out there really well. But you know, he goes 1 for 2 with a walk in this ball game. All the at-bats were competitive. Even the fact that he was expanding the zone a little bit more, as weird as it sounds, I kind of almost liked. And he still drew a walk. Like it's not like it was to his detriment. But there were even some pitches that, you know, when he was really struggling, he was walking a decent amount because he was just not swinging at anything that was a borderline pitch because he didn't have any confidence that he was going to be able to drive a baseball, really. So he was only kind of swinging over the guaranteed strikes. And now in that, I'm really talking about one specific at-bat, the at-bat after the home run. You saw him even expand the zone a little bit more. And again, maybe I'm just like overthinking this and I'm being way overly analytical on one at bat, but it was just nice to see him, you know, relax his shoulders a little bit and, you know, actually just go up there and be like, you know what, I can do that. And whatever the pitcher throws here, I'm going to try to make something happen with it. So nice to see. Still drawing walks, like I said, which ultimately is kind of the ideal situation. You want to be aggressive, but also be able to take those base on balls. So good for Colt Keith. Zach McKinstry with an RBI in this ball game. Riley Greene goes 4 for 4 at the plate, and I almost feel like there's a level of frustration with the fan base. Not frustration. A lack of buy-in with Riley Greene in Houston. Like he crushed this whole series. And I feel like a lot of fans are just like, oh yeah, that's just like what he does. He's, you know, he struggles mightily for a couple of weeks and then he's the best hitter on the planet for a couple of weeks. So I think people are waiting for more of a, you know what, that this is great and this is awesome. And it's glad, you know, we're all glad that we got our middle of the lineup bat back and that he's seeing the ball well again. But in the same breath, I think there's a much bigger sample size that needs to be reached for him, for a chunk of the fan base at least, to kind of buy back in and not like, oh, we're selling Riley Greene, he's terrible. That's not what I'm trying to say. But you know what I mean? Like just a little bit of hesitation to be like, okay, like everything's good and he's just found it and we're going to be good the rest of the season. I think there's a little bit more that we need to see to kind of prove that. But obviously a fantastic series for him, 4 for 4 to cap off a series in which he had 2 home runs on top of that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let's talk about a couple more offensive players. Then we'll talk about the bullpen. We will do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Amazon TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Well, you can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you are ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25, to Call of Duty, as easily as you stream your favorite shows. There's so many great titles to choose from, and to be able to jump to your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in literally every room is such a game changer. My roommate loves it. And if you already have a console, a Fire TV Stick device is a more affordable and easier way to travel, right? You want to game on the road? Well, you can save space too, much smaller than taking your entire Xbox with you. There's a ton of benefits to this, and it's great technology. So head to amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Today, though, we talk about the 7-4 victory over the Houston Astros. Tomas Nido, man, more offense. 2 for 4. In this game. Now, 2 for 4, he did get thrown out trying to extend a single into a double, so was really only on base as a result of 1, but did go 2 for 4. Good for him, man. Like he's definitely going back down to Toledo the second that Jake Rogers is healthy again. That's kind of goes without saying, but it is still nice to see him produce. You know, that is the thing that this organization has tried to get better at in the Scott Harris era, and it has been the frustration of fans at times, where you're constantly just seeing like these minor league signings and these waiver claims and these 4A players get signed and whatnot. Well, these are the kind of situations where you're thankful for that. And obviously we still want them to spend money on big name players, and that's something that they have lacked in this tenure. But the fact that you can call on somebody in Toledo when a major leaguer gets hurt and you're still getting a major league caliber player, right? Obviously, it's not like a bona fide all-star, or else he'd be on on a major league roster somewhere. But like still getting, you know, hey, at least when we call on somebody, we're going to get a pro up here is very nice, and something that the previous regime for the Tigers definitely did not have. As far as the bullpen goes, kind of a weird day at the office for the Tigers bullpen. They only give up 1 earned run total, and that was on the Tyler Holton solo home run he gave up. But that was it for starters. And on top of that, as I said earlier, there was still a lot of base runners the whole game. So Holton goes 1 2/3. Obviously, like I said, gives up the home run, has a walk, a strikeout, and 3 hits against. Canely goes out there, can't locate the fastball for anything, is just spraying the fastball all over the place, but goes 1 1/3, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. His ERA is now 0.77 on the season, gets his 5th save of the year. And Brennan Hanafy goes 2 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. So and he inherited a couple runners as well and was able to still be nails and kind of tightrope out of a bases loaded situation there. So just a really stressful outing that ultimately they did still hold the Astros to only 1 earned run. So tip of the cap, good job, boys. But it was not without its sweat and anxiety. That is for sure. What went wrong in this game? We're going to talk Jackson Jobe here. I don't want it to sound like I think this was absolutely abysmal outing, though. He goes 4 innings, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, and obviously the home run against. His ERA on the season is now 3.38. That's still really darn good for a rookie that was his first month in as a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. Like, you'll gladly take that. The slider today was some of the best I've ever seen it. Maybe the best I've ever seen it at the Major League level, legitimately. It was fantastic. He was getting called strikes on it low and away, but he was getting swing and miss on it as well. I thought it was a really impressive pitch in this one. The command of literally everything else in his arsenal, however, was super iffy. Fastball command was all over the place. Changeup, while I do love the fact that it is a good enough pitch for him to throw it to righties and lefties, if it's too low and starts off low, if it starts off as not a strike, then they're not going to go, fishing at it. So that's something that he has to continue to make adjustments on, and I'm sure he will. Even like the home run he gave up, that was the first pitch? Was it literally the first pitch of the ball game? But that was just a fastball over the heart of the plate. Can't do that in the major leagues. And then he had that pickoff error thing. Didn't end up costing him, but yeah, cleat got stuck or something and just completely air-mailed that ball, rather. But yeah, like this was not very efficient. 77 pitches in 4+ innings, as he did go out there for the 5th inning, but then didn't record an out. So yeah, like this is kind of a growing pains type of outing. He had very little command of anything outside of the slider, and it showed. But you also still saw the flashes of what he could be. You still saw some of the strikeouts were great. He had one strikeout on the fastball that was really, really good. But on the season, he has one of the lowest whiff rates on his fastball in all of baseball, legitimately, in the entire sport. So among starting pitchers, obviously. So yeah, like still a lot to work on and tinker with and whatnot. But this was very much an outing of a guy that looks like he has really good stuff, but is in the first month of his major league career. Like that's just kind of what it looked like. So I don't think this was terrible. I don't watch this outing and I go, oh my goodness, I'm out on Jackson Jobe. Like, you know what I mean? He's going to be great in this league for a really long time. But you saw some of the adjustments and some of the things that he's trying to still work through. And on top of that, it's been 12 days since he last pitched. He's probably off his routine and his rhythm a little bit as well. So all of that to say, this was a fine outing. I'm not mad about it. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't great by any stretch, and there's plenty for him to still work on, but I'm talking in circles at this point. The other thing, as I've already mentioned a few times, that went wrong was the fact that the Astros were continuing to apply pressure the entire ballgame. Again, ultimately one earned run out of the bullpen, but the Astros dragged them to heck and back, man. And like, I just wouldn't feel bad about this loss at all if I was Houston. You still took 2 of 3 in the series, and you played a heck of a baseball game in this one. I am so thankful to be walking out of this with a victory from Detroit's perspective. The constant pressure, base runners literally all game. The tying and game-winning runs were up in like 3 consecutive innings or 3 of 4 innings. At one point in the second half of this ball game, like multiple occasions, it was relentless, and you can't give a team like that hope. You just can't, and the Tigers did one too many times. I think in general, and I promise I'll stop rambling about this, but this was one where, again, with the amount of walks that you allowed, and Jobe obviously tagged with 4 of those, but then every reliever walked a batter as well. That's just something that can't happen and needs to be tightened, because you are not going to win very many ball games with the way that really everybody that took the mound for the Tigers won in the wow. You are not going to win too many ball games pitching the way that almost every pitcher that pitched today did. That is what I was trying to say. Goodness. And I think that that's something that thankfully we haven't said too often this year, because the Tigers pitching has been incredible. But 7 walks and 9 hits is not going to win you too many ball games. So thankfully it did. The only other thing I want to complain about, and then we'll move on to stuff, is the Tigers in the 8th inning. Offensively, it's a 3-run ball game. Okay, so save situation. Caneley's going back out there for the 9th. That you had 2nd and 3rd, no outs, in a 3-run game in the top of the 8th. Javy Báez, Spencer Torkelson pinch hits, and Trey Sweeney come up. You score 0 runs. 0. Now, part of that, I wonder if the coaching staff is kicking themselves a little bit, because usually for this team, If there's a man on third, he's running on contact. And that's just something that a lot of people in the fan base have been frustrated with it over the years. And I have tried to explain on this show why it benefits the Tigers more times than it doesn't, and that's why they do it. And they want to put pressure on the defense. That ball was right back to the pitcher. It bounced off his glove. It kind of got away from second base. If Riley Greene is running on contact, he is scoring on that play. But it's also no outs, and you know that Torkelson is going to pinch hit in that situation, or at least the coaching staff knows already that they're going to pinch hit Torkelson after Javy. So a little bit of, a little bit more of a conservative approach there in base running that we're not used to seeing from the Tigers. And then Torkelson, not a great at bat, but my goodness, the strike call in the first pitch of that AB changes everything. And was maybe a foot out of the strike zone. I cannot wait for the umpire audit on Thursday just to see how egregious that was, because that was legitimately in a different zip code and yet was called a strike. Absolutely brutal. So not a great at bat. Obviously, the pop out, whatever, didn't score a run, but was behind the 8 ball early. And then Trey Sweeney just hasn't hit much this year and had a routine fly out to center field. That is just something that, again, you have to take advantage in that situation. You were flirting with danger way too much. I again, as I've already said about 8 times, I am so glad to be walking out of this ball game with a win, because about 8 different situations in that game should have, honestly, at a minimum, could have led to the Tigers not walking out of here with a win. Let's talk stuff, okay? We'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Monarch Money. Have you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all of my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save even more. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in, as always. So let's talk stuff. We talked about the rehab assignments. Bo Brisky did pitch. Daniela Bruce on the broadcast, who's done a great job, by the way, so far in her new role this year on FanDuel Sportsbook Network. You do say the Sportsbook, right? Yeah, FanDuel Network, whatever. But she had mentioned on the broadcast that Bo Brisky did pitch for West Michigan the other night, which is nice to see. So, and also mentioned that there's a chance that he is back some point either this weekend or the start of next week. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that. Tigers are 19-12, and I'm very thankful for a bullpen that was able to, sweat one out and allow the Tigers to be 19-12 there. That is one of the best records in the American League. I'm recording this before the Yankees and really most of baseball play on Wednesday evening. So I don't know the results, but there's a chance that the Tigers have the best record in the American League when you are listening to this. So to put a bow on April, let's do an April recap here, okay? It kind of goes without saying, but this was an overwhelming and massive success for the Detroit Tigers. And we have not been able to say that very often. Really, I mean, you can kind of go back to even the glory days. They had a tendency to sometimes get off to slow starts in April. But in the A.J. Hinch era, before last season, the Tigers were always awful in April and then would turn it around and kind of salvage the season, outside of obviously 2022 when everything was just terrible. Pitching has been phenomenal, and that has been the key to their success. As I mentioned yesterday, even when they lose, they're in games, they're close games. And that is also the reason that they are winning, because they are in every single game they play. The hitting also has been much better than expected. And kind of the biggest thing, this 19-12 record is all with a ton of injuries against them. Critical ones, like crucial players as well. Going into April with the injuries and given their history in the month of April, I think the expectation was kind of just like, let's just keep our heads above water here, right? Like, let's just, try and stay afloat. And they went well above and beyond those April expectations, considering those injuries, and did way more than just staying afloat. So hopefully the month of May is the month that the Tigers start getting some of those reinforcements back. Because as the weather breaks and as, the ballpark starts getting a little bit more filled, and you start getting hopefully Matt Vierling back, and you start getting, Parker Meadows. Oh, please give me Parker Meadows back in this lineup. There could be a lot of fun. And on top of all of that, one of the big narratives going into the season was that the Tigers' first month and change, their March and April, were one of the hardest schedules in baseball over that stretch. They walk out of it 19-12. And now, finally, it lets up a little bit. Your next 7 opponents are the Angels and the Rockies. The Rockies have gotten off to legitimately one of the worst starts in the history of baseball. And the Angels have cooled down a ton after starting out hot, and they're kind of like spiraling out of control. And expectations were low. They were kind of, I don't want to say always going to do this, but like I don't think anyone really bought into their decent first couple of weeks there. But they have a couple of decent pieces, a couple of young players. Zach Neto's back from injury. That's obviously a big one. Soriano, I'd imagine we see at some point, maybe not, but, we play 4 games against them. So assuming that it's not the one pitcher we miss in the starting rotation, we'll see him. I really like him. Hard sinker ball pitcher, hard to lift the ball against. Has had a couple of really good outings. They have a couple of pieces in their bullpen as well. Like this is not, a complete just rollover gimme team. They've won 12 games this year. But this is still one of the bottom teams in the American League, and a team that you should expect to go in and take 3 or 4 from. And I think that is certainly the expectation in this game. I think there's a real chance that you have the starting pitching matchup, the starting pitching advantage in all 4 matchups. Game 1 is tonight, 9:30. A West Coast road trip for you. Casey Mize against Kikuchi. A signing that I really liked. I thought he had a pretty solid year. Obviously, there was some drama with, the trade deadline and what what ended up being the return for him, and then what the Tigers got for Flaherty, and everybody was talking. He was the big talk of the town there at the deadline, but has an ERA over 4, and I think is 0-4 on the season so far. Not all his fault, but hasn't gotten a lot of run support in his starts, but also ERA over 4, and that's one of, if not their best pitchers. So Casey Mize is your 5, and I think there's a real argument he's maybe better than that one's close. I want to respect what Kikuchi did last year and has done in his career, but let's go win a series. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow recapping Game 1 against the Angels. Appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope, and I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.